Hey. Today is January the 28th, 2019. Month is over already. First month of the year over already. Got the lights, everything in place already. So we're ready to go. Today, I want to talk about this book. When I first got this book, I wasn't planning on reading it. I was just going to skim some of the chapters because I heard a podcast with this guy, Yuval Harari. He was on Sam Harris podcast, and I kept hearing about the book, published in 2014 or 2015, and I said, well, hey, I'm gonna check it out. Pretty big book. It's about 400 pages, but the book was incredible. I could not put it down. He basically goes into the whole history of Homo sapiens, human beings. He goes into prehistory, and I think a lot of it is theory, where he talks about, there were Neanderthals, and then Homo sapiens came to Africa and, basically survived. And I mean, it's an amazing story. It's very amazing. I enjoyed reading it. Especially the chapters when he talked about empire and how basically Homo sapiens have the ability and continue to have the ability to make a world community. I mean, think about it. 100 years from now, you had the United States, you had India or whatever, but now in 2019, we are basically we are globalist community. We're a global community. And he talks about the steps on how that was created with capitalism and religion and now technology. It's making us a global community. But he talks about his main theory is that Homo sapiens survive besides any mammal or animal because we have the ability, in order to come together, we also have the ability to have what's called imagined realities. I don't know. I think this guy, he says he's an atheist author, but he talks about how Christianity and Judaism and Islam, among other religions, these were the monotheistic, other polytheistic religions gave people a framework, something that they could work together. And I found that interesting, and he talked about the idea of money, how money and companies aren't real things. They're not tangible things, but he's called the capitalist the greatest storytellers ever. Because if you could he got everybody wanting this green paper or cowie shit, whatever they use as currency, and it brought about, capitalism. It brought about, supply and demand. So in this book, there's no way I can go, but that was the ones that really made me look up. He called it, what did he call it? The Capitalist Creed. He talks about how science is determined. Science was pushed by money. Technology nowadays is funded. It talks about how the scientists are the new priests. He goes into how our lives changed, how we got out of a religious, not but the world in general. Basically Western Europe, created a lot of this stuff. And when they went out and started empires, they spread it. In one part where he talks about how colonialism, I don't think he's excusing it, but you can't argue with the fact that it did bring some things that's still there, whether you may say those things are good or bad. The British brought a lot to India that they're still using. I mean, hey, I live in the United States. I'm speaking English. You know what I mean? Just about everybody in this world has lived in some type of empire. And he goes to explain that these empires made it possible that we can have a globalist economy. which may a globalist economy and a globalist culture, which may or may not be ideal. I don't know. I've heard the arguments. There's some for the good of it, and then I hear there's some for the bad. I think everybody's entitled to what they believe about it. He also talked about global warming and the environment. He talked about how if I'm in China, I mean the rules. It has to be a world rules, because if I'm in the United States and they say, okay, we can't dump plastic or whatever, but if all I have to do is go to another country, they don't have those rules. So that those are problems. So we can't solve those as a country. You know. So, but nationalism has its advantages also. So I don't know. If you're into history, check it out. Very, very deep book. He explains it. This guy, I assume he was a teacher. I've heard some of his public speaking. I've heard some of his lectures. I've heard some of his stuff on podcasts, but he is very, very knowledgeable. I mean, you're gonna need a phone or a tablet or something to kind of look some of the references he make up. I learned so much just off of that, just the references that he makes. So Sapiens, you know, I would advise you, if you're into reading or if you're into history, to check this book out. It is a marvelous book, The History of Mankind. All right, peace.